Now let's keep going with Christoph Holz, Managing Director of visalyze GmbH. His visualizations convince clients like Swarovski, Red Bull, and more. The Austrian Ministry of Science, Research and Economy granted him the Global Born Champion Award. His topic is survival skills for the data-driven society. How can citizen data science, as a cultural technique, put us back in charge of our digital footprint? While driving a car, we use mental models to predict the behavior of our peers to survive traffic. This is a completely intuitive process where we recognize familiar visual patterns and act on them. This talk shows how emerging visualization techniques facilitate this evolutionary human capability to close the last mile from data to brain, finally putting humans in the driver's seat again. We're preparing a screen. You are preparing a show for us. Very good. He will also be on our panel at 12:30, which will be right after this, a panel about digital transformation. And tell me when you're done. Otherwise, I'll just advertise our panel.
Yeah, here are we. Okay.
You're done? You've
Perfect.
got it all?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Christoph Holz and visalyze.
Sound, please.
We hear you.
No, this one I can't sing this good.
Okay.
What you just saw, I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Today, I'm going to talk about survival skills for the data-driven society. We are driven by data, aren't we? How can we become the driver again? How can human decision-making be part of all this automation? And what we are preparing here, you might have seen Minority Report, then you already know what's coming. Global communication has become a basic need. What you see here are refugees at the northern coast of Africa searching for a cell connection. And of course, they want to communicate home, as IT already did. Digitalization changes us. We become what we behold. First, we shape our tools, and then the tools shape us. And I want to invite you on a journey exploring how this new shape will be and what might be lost. Is internet really making us clever or making us stupid? The only sensible answer to this question is yes. Both of it. My son is about 5 years old. And when I watch him talking to Siri, I just know he'll never learn fluently handwriting as I did. And of course, at the end of the year, when we all sign our Christmas cards, we know that we already went out of practice. Handwriting is no cultural technique anymore. Is this a sad thing? Handwriting, I think it's an interesting scientific topic, but it's in the past. What skills will we need in the future? What cultural techniques for the information age? And cultural techniques, as you see here, might be about making fire. We don't need that anymore. It might be more about something like this, the drawing you see behind. Because our imagination, our visual thinking, that's what creativity is all about. And this capacity of our brain is rather old, hundreds of thousands of years older than our capacity of talking and writing. So let me do a quick test. Who remembers faces easier than names? Should be about 60%. Who is perfect in packing their suitcase, their car, but still has a messy desk? Albert Einstein said about the chaotic desk, he said, if a chaotic desk is a hint to a chaotic mind, what might be the message of an empty desk? Do you have good orientation in a new city? You find your car easily, but you're bad in algebra. So, now you're a visual thinker, so you're better in the 3 dimensions than in the time dimension, because verbal linguistic thinkers, they are punctually, they are usually on time, they're very well organized, and they're organized in a linear way. That's not about creativity. To explain the movie you saw before, I have to do another test with you. To ask you, what are you seeing here? What is that? Anyone? Beg your pardon? Hobbits, yes, it's the Lord of the Ring. Which part? Which part? Return of the King. Did you? Yeah, so, you're welcome. So, because this is a conversation visualization. So, if people talk a lot in the script, it uses the script as a basis of its data. Gandalf talks a lot, and Frodo too. And Gandalf is traveling with Pippin and Aragorn, so they are talk together a lot. And Frodo is traveling with Sam, and they talk a lot as well as to Gollum. So big means a lot to talk, and closeness, it's a gravitational force. You see, here means they talk to each other. So that's conversation as a picture. And the visualization I showed you before is actually a Twitter bootcamp. Took place in Vienna. You see the participants, and on the left you see Walter Raffelsberger and the picture of Max Kossack, and they are talking together about the topic megaflop, whatever that was at that time. So it's rather easy to understand what's happening in these conversation flows in a visual map. It's very intuitive. What we saw is a network, and you all may know about the network effect. If you only have one node in the network, only one phone, you cannot communicate. If you have 2 phones, you have only 1 connection. But if you have 6 nodes, you already have 15 connections. So this means a kind of exponential curve. It's not completely exponential, but it's growing with the number of connections. And as someone already said, your network is your net worth. So that's what puts intelligence in our systems. Networks usually are not evenly distributed, as the symmetric figure before suggested. So they usually have different distances inside this network. And if you want to travel these distances, you might want to find out the shortest path. So while networks with many connections provide you with a lot of information, a lot of access, it is very difficult to calculate these networks, especially the shortest path. It is mathematics at the limits of computation. It cannot be calculated. There is not even a formula. This problem is not completely understood, but still we depend on it. And if I take this curve and show you human development, on the left side you see very few people, 10,000, 11,000 years ago, when we invented agriculture. For the first time we had an overflow, we had enough to live on, and this meant, and the white line shows you the increase of population, of human population, and it increased until the Black Death in 1300. As you can see, following that, a little bump down. And then came movable print typing, steam engine, atomic bomb, man on the moon, and so on, and so on. And all these inventions, they coincide with human growth. The steam engine starts somehow the age of mankind. We are now living in that age, and the growth is still exponentially. Okay, there will be some limits, I suppose. But if we take the same curve and look at it from the knowledge doubling time created by Buckminster Fuller, he said that he found out that knowledge was doubling every century. After the Second World War, it only took 25 years to double the knowledge. And now, right now, it's only 13 months. Medical knowledge is faster, other knowledge parts are slower, but there is a medical invention every 3 minutes. So how can we cope with this? Because the exponential curve is something we cannot grasp, and we cannot learn in this curve. Even our brain won't do that. And of course, this curve gives you the impression of the limit. On top of it, there it's over, isn't it? But that, of course, is just an optical illusion, because I can just smash this curve. It's the same curve you see now. And the smallest curve, it's the same curve again, I just compressed the vertical axis. And then there's enough space for any more growth. And if we believe what a countryman of mine, Anton Zeilinger, who did the beaming experiment, you might know from photons, he says knowledge might be more fundamental than reality. So it's not energy, it's not physics, it's information, and it's almost unlimited. To describe the universe, you would need a number 10 to the potence of 128. That's a very big number, but it's not this big. And this is how much, if you would describe the whole universe, you would need this storage, which is a good to know for IBM, of course. So, what is this strange thing called big data? What does it have to do with Star Trek, with Enterprise? It's always about going where no one has gone before. It's always reaching the limits. So our children's big data are incomprehensible for us, and our parents' big data is small data for us now. What's the benefit of big data? As Susan Ettlinger put it, you can do bad decisions more quickly, efficiently, and with far greater impact. Big data, and of course you know that, it's not only about volume. It's not only about speed. It's not only about different data formats. It's mainly about veracity, the truthness of the data. And that's new. You cannot rely on your data sources. And that's the main reason why conventional analytics won't work anymore. That's, if you looked at the stock markets, companies like Tableau, some of you might know them, that's why they lost 40%. Almost all big data companies lost a lot of their shares, because they were not able to come up with value inside big data. And what's that? In my mind, it's about causality, about the relations inside the data, and to be truly actionable. So what I propose to get the most value out of big data is using visual metaphors. I'm going to show you them to you, like maps. You already know maps, like planetary systems. And you saw it in the film before, gravitational forces at work. Even if we take Facebook, and we are concentrating now on Facebook, social media data, especially because it's highly available and you can relate very easily to it. If you see people talk on Facebook, they're called talking about, what if you could hear them? their likes, their shares, their comments. I'm going to show you how this looks. And of course, how to act on target, because all analytics is worthless if you have nothing to do with it. And I don't believe these decisions should be left to machines. What was in the beginning? Illumination, scientific method. Galileo Galilei, he was a narcissistic prick, I give you that, but he said measure what's measurable. The second part here, make measurable what is not so. That's just a myth. He never said that because he was an intelligent man. How would you measure something which is not measurable? Economics teaches you that. Measure the unmeasurable. So what's the problem right now getting information out of this? Any economists here? Okay, I'm neither, and they are the problem. Because Joseph Schumpeter, who founded this econometrics, measure everything, said economics has to use statistics and scientific methods to become an exact science, to fake an exact science. If you have metrics, if you have KPIs, whatever could go wrong, maybe the world economy could go wrong. Let's take the subprime crisis. What was in the core of it? It was financial constructs wrapped inside a KPI, a metric, and then put together another ones of them, wrap them again with a metric, and the metric itself is not a really problem, it's the belief system. We believe in the information we get, and the information is not, as Mark Twain already said, lies, damned lies, and statistics, and if he had known, of course, key performance indicators as well. Why does conventional analytics suck? Du kannst schon starten, gell? Statistics are stripping away a lot of actionable and relevant information. Why is that? You see the dots in the bottom? These are your data, and then you have statistics, calculations, and then you arrive on a KPI like EBIT for a company or your fans on a Facebook page. And you would mean you could act on this data, but you can't. You only can act on the underlying data, but you cannot reverse this calculation. Statistics cannot be reversed. The statistic has long forgotten where its data came from. We propose a different approach. Just an example. Air traffic control, who arrived with the plane here today? Yeah? So you know there is an air traffic control officer. Let's give him metrics like 200 planes in your airspace and 600 miles per hour average speed. What would he do with this information? All the planes would drop. What he needs is to see every plane, every remaining flight time, the height and everything. And then something very cool happens if he wants to land the plane. He does not have to look on the screen anymore. He already has a mental model of his data environment in his mind. And he can act on it. And he can safely land you. And that's what we propose for data managers in the future. This idea of a mental model comes from Ludwig Wittgenstein, a philosopher, who said we have these mental models in our mind. And that's how I think we can get back in the driver's seat to create actionable mental models of our data, and I'm going to show you how. Because these mental models are predictive and they're explanatory. That's how you drive your car. That's how you know if you overtake what's going to happen. These are mental models. Even if a doctor would operate, he would not use information like this, pulse. I give you that, it's quite important, but if he needs to operate, he has to look inside the body, and this actually is a so-called data visualization. That's not the reality. That's a model of this. And then, that's from a Swiss hospital. These doctors are preparing, surgeons are preparing for an operation, mentally walking through this operation. And I suppose if you're going to be operated on, you'd like they have a good mental model. And this is, I'm going to show you how this might work. And it's about intuition training intuition, and that's a very successful Facebook page of a car manufacturer. And do we have him here? Tesla? Yes. Click on it. And what you see here, I can't see this exactly on the screen. Can you see the screen? Is it working? Okay. So you see they're talking about cars, about model, about emissions. And if the size is big, they're talking a lot. And if the size is not this big, they're talking not so much. And if the color is light, not so dark, then maybe I show it here as well. I have it here too on the screen. Weight, for example, people don't like it. They don't talk so much about it, but it's dark, so the sentiment surrounding this topic is bad. And if I click on this topic, on the right side, I see all the postings connected to this topic. And I select one of these postings and show you the network structure that we already had. And now you see as a star the posting in the middle, and you see all the people who are connected to it. And now it's getting a little bit creepy, yes, I admit, because you really can see this is the posting, this on top is another one, and this is Jordan Gee. And on the right, you now easily see what he is just talking about, what he is interested about. And more than that, here is a person who has the same size, but Lino Willenbrick, but he's just a chatterbox. This guy here, the 83 means he got 83 reactions out of his own network. So he's real influence, and if you're into social media, you would want to know who influences your crowd to understand what's happening inside your data. And finally, the sound wave. This is Tesla's sound wave. Here you can see one of the more successful postings, and you even can see how these postings develop over time. If I go just one step up, you see the different car manufacturers as they compete for the interest of their audience. And here you see very easily an optical anomaly. Can you? Yes. Obviously, Mercedes had real lot people talking about something really, really important. Can you change to the political parties? No. Okay. So we would like to show you Alternative Deutschland. They are silly and they have a silly name, and AfD, I think, something like this. And you really would see their blobs going up in the social media environment. You could even see which persons are shared users between the different car brands. Here you see Mercedes users, and here you see BMW users. And this group, they are communicating on all of these brands and their brand channels. So if you're a social media manager, you really would want to know what they are talking about. So the moderator is not looking, so it seems I have still some time. The greatest value of a picture is if it tells you something you did not expect before. And that's explorative data analysis. Conventional data analysis sucks because it only tells you what you asked for. If you have an SQL statement, for example, or you have a predefined diagram, it only tells you what you made the diagram for. You won't find any optical anomalies where you would like to explore. So data visualization is about finding the questions and the answers later. The eye is, of course, a very, and the visualization technique, it's a very, 90% of our sensory input comes from the eye. We make sense of images very, very quickly. Visual processing takes up 50% of our brain. There's a drawback. Does anyone see the dolphins? Dolphins, anyone? Dolphins, yeah. Do you see the dolphins now? Okay. So, of course, you're primed to see certain things and don't see other things. So, children would always see the dolphins here. They don't know anything else. to see there. Um, if you did not see the dolphins, it's no problem. It just means you have a healthy sex life. Sorry, there were some who saw them. Sorry about that. What's going to be the next big thing? And that's what my talk is about. What's the mass market killer app for the data-driven society who everyone will want to have and will want to pay for? Will it have to do something with your big data footprint? You might want to know what it is to manage it. Gartner gives us a hint. On the top of the hype cycle is advanced analytics self-service, which means you don't need an expert. Data scientists, experts are very scarce, they are very expensive, and you would not get any of them. So you have to do your analysis yourself. That's empowerment. You are the domain expert, and you just take self-service analysis. But that's the next step. Self-service, citizen data science. So data science for everyone. Of course, in Germany it's a lot about security law and data security and safety and all these things. I don't believe in that. Data has to be managed, and we need the skills to do that, and that's self-service citizen data science, which in our case means reintroducing intuition. Images, mental models allow for intuitive actions, and making the synergy of analysis, which is dull and done by someone else, and action is done by another one, making a synthesis, because you can do your own analysis, empowering you to become a citizen in the cyberspace, a citizen data scientist. So we are here. You can see this close up at Scale 11. We have a booth in Hall 11, booth 39, number 1, and you'll get, if you visit us, you'll get the visalyze cookie. Isn't that something? So, let the data set change your mindset. Thank you very much.
Is that over? Hi. Questions. This has been such an inspiring presentation that you may wonder how you use that for your business. And it's always nice to lean back and enjoy a show, but maybe you would also like to know something that could be relevant for your business. You've been so impressive, everyone is intimidated.
Everyone slept.
This guy is very expensive if you hire him. Now he's for free. You've bought him with the ticket you paid. So now you can come up. Yes, someone is having a question. I know, we're all so shy and well-mannered. It takes a little while. I've seen you. Go ahead. Closer.
Sorry. So how do you set up a situation where you can take your data, your business data, and push it into a visualization process like that in a way that is realistic for normal business users?
Yes, yes.
Actually, before you answer, I invite our guys, Lukas and Marvin, I invite you to change the equipment, because we need to change the decoration, and we can do this as we talk, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
now
so
your answer.
It's about high-velocity big data. If you have a high-velocity big data stream, we are not in analyzing all big data silos with historical data, whatever. If you have a big, high-speed velocity data stream, you plug it into our API, you select certain visual metaphors, and then you're going to be astonished what happens.
Is that an answer?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Here you go.
Thank you. I'm actually one of the probably only economists here.
So I got one. Thank you.
I was wondering, you've said statistics is not helpful, which it does have significant drawbacks.
Yeah.
Then you say, well, everybody will analyze all the data. So what methods and ideas or principles they will use to do that? Thank you.
That's a very good question. how can we get information, even knowledge, out of data if we don't change it completely through our classical processes, which Google, for example, does. They are building Skynet in London now. You might have heard they're hiring every data scientist on the world to come to London and building this super intelligent machine. So I talked about culture. Some say computers will take over very soon. I don't believe that's completely. I believe we are going to have some culture. And even if the computer takes over, they're going to be good terminators from Austria, as we have already seen. Data visualization provides a kind of different approach. I don't say we don't use any statistics, but what we use is reversible aggregations, reversible information, so it's staying very, very close to the data level. I have to admit, we don't take the raw data, we do a little enhancement with the data, but then we leave it like this. And KPIs and statistics were invented in a time where you did not have a computer, where you needed to boil down big numbers and big sets of data to some like an EBIT or key performance indicators. You don't need that anymore. Now you have powerful machines where you can calculate all the data and you can show it. And of course, what I showed you here is really very trivial data. One circle is one person, she has a name. If she does a lot, the circle is bigger. There's no statistics. If a little aggregation, of course. So it's very easy. And if this person does a lot, she's drawn by this gravitational algorithm in the middle. So it's all about the visual patterns. And like a meteorologist, if you give a meteorologist, a weather scientist, a picture of a satellite image of a hurricane, he can tell you where it's going. So this needs, of course, a new view on the data, and it could not have been done before. And of course, a science like, no, I've proven economics is not a science. If it was a science, its predictions would have to be true once at least. So it means look at the data and act on the data. So you directly get of course, you lose some insights you might get out of statistics, but you can act on it directly. You cannot act on a statistical information. Okay?
Thank you.
Was that a good answer?